And coming up tonight on Top Story.
The work does not end here. I have promptly handed over the report to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and I give him firm instructions to commence immediate investigations for corruption or related offenses.
In the next 30 minutes, President John Mahama gives marching orders for the recovery of over 20 billion United States dollars as proceeds of financial crimes allegedly committed against the state. Tonight, as government's flagship operation Recover or Loot enters a new phase today, we'll hear from the task force members who are leading this operation and have been doing that for the last 53 days.
We can retrieve as much as 20.49 billion United States dollars.
Now, in stage 2, there will be full-blown investigations. I see Mr. Acha is now Deputy Executive Director of IOCO, right?
And Top Story, as always, is brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies and Holy Insecticide Spray and Coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. Well, for the past 53 days, a task force of 5 anti-corruption crusaders embarked on what President Mahama revealed for the very first time as Operation Recover or Loot, a fact-finding mission with a clear mandate delegated to Northern Member of Parliament Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa to lead an intelligence-gathering phase of what is now going to be the anti-corruption program of the National Democratic Congress administration. But it has not been a walk in the park for this committee, which has faced criticism of lacking legal backing and, in extreme cases, the chairperson himself revealing to Joy News that he was threatened. Regardless, Oral today has concluded its work and is presenting a voluminous document to President John Dramani Mahama, who has an arduous task of sifting through over 2,000 petitions brought before him by Ghanaians. At least today we're getting to hear more of the details at Flagstaff House, or Jubilee House I should say, where the chairperson of Oral, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, revealed that just 36 of the reviewed cases alone could rake in an estimated amount of over 20 billion United States dollars. Listen.
36 cases that we have reviewed in detail. If we are successful in recoveries, we can retrieve as much as 20.49 billion United States dollars. 20.49 billion United States dollars. 36 cases, and that's from National Cathedral, PDS, SML. You have the GMPC salt pond decommissioning, and we decided that in this open session we will not go into greater detail, and so I want to be restrained. But there's a great deal of resources belonging to the taxpayers that can be retrieved. Then we've also done an estimate of the state capture, the land. If we successfully ask people to pay conservative market value for the lands they have looted, again, the experts are telling us that we can recover about 702.8 million United States dollars for the Ghanaian people. That's if we just ask people, those who were paying 42,000 cedis, 120,000 cedis, 160,000 cedis, to pay the fair market value. Those are lands that $500,000, $600,000, you will even struggle to get cantonments land at that figure. So very conservative estimates. We take the view that if people are asked to pay the real market value, this is how much we can retrieve. So in all, just a summary, the 36 cases, the high amount cases that we put together, and then the land loot, potentially we can raise about 21.19 billion United States dollars. And that is far more than what we have been chasing the IMF for and subjecting ourselves to all kinds of conditionalities. So we want to renew our appreciation and deep gratitude to His Excellency the President and his team of advisors for this initiative, which has really served Ghana well. And we look forward to the next phase. Even if we will not be involved, we will be very successful when the next phase really conducts retrievals and is successful in making sure that we are able to return to the national kitty resources that belong to the Ghanaian people. We thank you very much.
And that's the chairperson of Oral, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. But now we know that the work is not ended. President John Dramani Mahama today announced a new phase of this operation. In fact, he's ordering the Attorney General to immediately begin investigations and to prosecute those found culpable in the findings of the report.
The meticulous investigations, legal actions, and asset recoveries reflected in this report are a testament to the seriousness with which this government approaches the issue of accountability and good governance. The findings of this report make for sober reading. They reveal the scale of financial leakages that have cost our nation dearly. Resources that should have been invested in education, healthcare, infrastructure, and social development. But they also offer hope that through our collective efforts, we can reclaim what is ours and deter future acts of economic sabotage. As we receive this report, let me assure the Ghanaian people that the work does not end here. The recommendations of the report will be carefully studied, and where legal action and investigations are warranted, they will be pursued without fear or favor. Every peso recovered will be channeled back into national development, and mechanisms will be strengthened to prevent such losses in the future. I have promptly handed over the report to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and I give him firm instructions to commence immediate investigations into the cases reported in here with a view to prosecuting anyone found liable for corruption or related offenses. To those who think they can defraud the state and escape justice, let this serve as a strong warning. Ghana is no longer a safe haven for corruption. To those who stand for integrity, accountability, and the rule of law, I assure you that this government remains your steadfast partner in building a nation where honesty and hard work are rewarded. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a defining moment in our fight against corruption. We must all play our parts, citizens, civil society, the media, and public officials alike. Together, we will build a Ghana that is just, transparent, and prosperous for generations to come.
And a confirmation here on Top Story that Operation Recover All is now entering a new phase. In fact, there's a need for us to get some updates on what this new phase of Oral will look like and what it is that the Attorney General will be doing in terms of the priority cases. 36 of them. And fortunately, joining us now is the Minister of State Government Communications, Felix Kwachio-Fosu, who's joining us over the telephone lines now. Good evening to you, sir, and thank you for joining us on Top Story. Hold on for us briefly, because our reporter, Presidential Affairs Correspondent Maxwell Agbagba, was there with you today when the report was presented. In fact, we're getting to hear, Maxwell, that as many as 2,417 complaints were received by the Oral team. That's the level of interest in this fact-finding mission. What more do we know about the complaints?
Exactly, Blessed. So we were given the opportunity to see the Oral dashboard. And like you rightly mentioned, 2,417 total number of complaints were received by the Oral team, and they worked for a period of 53 days. Now, a total of 924 emails were received by the team. Now, calls received by the team 1,493. So 1,493 calls were received by the oral team. Petitions received directly by members, 44 petitions, we are told, were received directly by members of the team. And then cases reviewed prior to oral, 59. Now, total number of cases subjected to detailed review as at 6 p.m. on the 9th of February 2025, we are told, are 230 cases. And now, we've been given information also on the value of financial cases reviewed. And we're told that the total value of the financial cases reviewed, that one is pegged at $20.49 billion US. $20.49 billion. That's the value of the total financial cases reviewed. Now, on the estimated value of the state lands reviewed, and the chairman of ORA, Samuel Okujetu Ablakwa, made it clear that if those lands were sold at their right prices and their right values, the total would have been $702.8 million US dollars, $702.8 million US dollars. And we're given the total estimated value of all cases reviewed. So all the cases that the oral team reviewed, if you're looking at the estimated value of those cases, we're talking about an amount of $21.19 billion
I see.
dollars.
That's a lot of figures being put out now, but let's make sense of it and what likely the Attorney General may be doing about this. Fortunately, Felix, you've been listening to the figures being put out now by the oral team. It might be new figures, but for those who are legal experts, they tell us that cases of such nature may run for months, if not years. How are you then planning to recover all of these funds?
Well, the president charged the Attorney General to take swift action to have the cases referred to him investigated and institute immediate prosecutorial action against those that he deemed have questions to answer. And as I speak to you, feverish preparations are going on to hold a number of people accountable for their roles in various corruption scandals and matters relating to corruption. So the government remains very committed. President Mahama remains very committed to the promise that he made to the people of Ghana that he will exact accountability from all public office holders, past and present. It is the case that this is the material that has been placed before him, which he has handed over to the Attorney General to take action on. And I can confirm that action will commence in the next few hours on some of the more pressing cases that have come to light.
And I'm just curious right now as to what will inform the president's choice in terms of priority. If you take a look at the complaints, over 2,000 of them, the oral team itself had to do a priority basis review, which then brought us to 36 cases in terms of financial graft. What will be informing the president's choice?
Yes, pretty straightforward. They involve raising theft of public funds, and so a review of the documentation and the facts available would indicate that some action has to commence. Others are a bit more complex, and therefore will require more thorough scrutiny and appraisal in order to reach a conclusion as to whether or not further action has to be taken. But those that fall within the category of straightforward cases that can be determined, action will be taken. And as I've indicated, action will commence very, very soon, and you will hear about it.
Are you able to tell Ghanaians if there are individuals named in the report and whether or not these persons are politically exposed?
Well, I have studied some of the reports, so I'm able to tell that every particular case that is handled has a section where the persons who are of interest and are deemed to have played a role or acted in any way to have undermined the financial position of the country are clearly stated. So when you pick any particular case, you will know who is believed to be involved. So in terms of identifying persons who are deemed to have questions to answer, there is no difficulty about it. But as I indicated, the decision to pursue a particular case or the other will depend on the availability of evidence and how easy it is to obtain that evidence.
And since there's no difficulty in the names or perhaps putting them out, a critical case, for instance, will be the National Cathedral. The figures involved and the amount you're mentioning for some is just to stoke a public sentiment against persons who are deemed to be working for God and for country. Are you able to put out names of persons perhaps that the oral team named in this report and likely those who will be prosecuted?
On my part, to mention names on public radio when the processes have not been commenced officially by the Attorney General. What I do know is that as I speak to you, the Attorney General is reviewing some of those cases. And very, very soon, perhaps in a matter of hours, action will commence. As and when those actions take place, we'll be in a position to speak with. But now, it will be completely improper for me to name names. Again, with specific reference to the National Cathedral, I think that the facts around that have been clear. For many years, since that matter broke out, we have discussed it publicly. We in the NDC were very critical of the processes leading up to the spending of $58 million on digging the hole. I believe that the people of Ghana agreed with our position, and that may have also informed the reason why they gave us the overwhelming mandate that they gave us. It is our duty to act on that mandate and hold to account those who decided to waste public resources in the manner they did when there were more pressing concerns that could have been addressed with that same amount. Indeed, some prominent men of God, some prominent pastors, and clergymen publicly resigned because of their stated disagreements with the way that things were being handled with respect to the National Cathedral. So if some of the people who were picked to work on the National Cathedral project themselves became so dissatisfied with the processes and the way that things were being mismanaged and the way funds were being wasted and left, how can anybody be in doubt that clear wrongdoing took place? Fortunately, evidence has become available of the specific wrongdoing, and action will be taken as and when the Attorney General is convinced that action should be taken.
Felix, what will happen if the pieces of evidence, this whole report submitted to the president, fails to yield results?
Well, first of all, that has to be determined by a court of competent jurisdiction. Government's duty through the Attorney General is to ensure that the high suspicion of wrongdoing is looked into, and where the Attorney General is satisfied that sufficient evidence exists for persons to be held accountable, there's a laid-down process, a time-tested process for doing so. That involves preferring charges against the individuals, taking them to court, and giving them an opportunity to answer to those charges. A court will then determine whether they have satisfactorily answered to those charges or that the prosecution, led by the Attorney General, has been able to establish their guilt. And then a determination will be made. Government is committed to due process, and nobody's rights will be violated.
I see.
Even as we seek to exert accountability. We are confident that based on what we are seeing, sufficient grounds exist for that kind of action.
And for the sake of time, just before you take leave of us, your government is now being criticized. At least we know Ora will move into the phase of Operation Prevent All Loot, which of course Daniel Yaudomelevo is excited about, that the president has spoken about. You are now being criticized, in fact, by some anti-graft campaigners, including the likes of Manasseh Azuri, who is worried about the trend we've seen of late, that yes, you're going after these corrupt individuals, but the Attorney General, on the other hand, is dropping charges against persons who were prosecuted or being prosecuted under the Eswell administration. What is accounting and informing these decisions by the AG?
I'm able to confirm that later this week, the Attorney General will engage the Ghanaian media and put before them cogent reasons why he has discontinued the cases that were in court.
But for now, are you saying it's justified?
Absolutely. You see, a clear distinction must be drawn between frivolous and callous, malicious prosecution of political opponents and evidence-based prosecution. Let me give you an example. How is it that the former chairman of the NDC is arrested and put before court for many years because he is alleged to have convened a meeting to fashion out a response to the violence that took place at Ayers West. Meanwhile, we don't know that the state-sponsored terrorists who were working on behalf of the MPP that day were the ones who set upon innocent Ghanaians, fired at some of them, inflicted severe wounds on some of them who are yet to recover. There is a commission of inquiry that pointed out specific individuals who should be prosecuted. They were never prosecuted. And yet the national chairman of the NDC, another official, who were at a meeting or alleged to have been at a meeting to discuss a response on how to protect the party and its members from similar attacks, were picked up and prosecuted.
Yeah, but the question is why not exhaust the process? Because these cases are active. At least allow the courts and the judges to conclude the case then.
Now has a right to look at the facts of the case and come to the conclusion that it is a waste of everybody's time. Government should not be in the business of wasting the time of the public and precious resources, dragging people to court over frivolous matters when evidence of clear wrongdoing exists elsewhere. Tell me, did you not see masked men unleash mayhem and violence against innocent Ghanaians at Ayers West? How do we trust a government that overlooks this, does nothing about it, and goes to pick people who have done absolutely nothing beyond allegedly going to a meeting to discuss their party's response? That can be deemed as malicious prosecution. Number two, I follow the Atu14 case closely, and I am left in no doubt that it was a wicked, callous, malicious attempt by a rambunctious Attorney General of Edami to silence him for his position on the e-levy, because there was absolutely no substance to that case, and that is why the appeals court threw it out. Rather than allow the matter to rest, the Attorney General took it to the Supreme Court in order to further stifle Atu14, especially when the political season came near. The Attorney General has looked at it and is convinced that there is no merit in that case. But as I have said, the Attorney General himself is committed to accounting to the people of Ghana on these cases. So later this week, he will hold a press event.
Okay, and
outline the reasons why he has had to take this step. But let us not conflict that with the need to hold people who are committed brazen thefts of public resources accountable.
Grateful for your time, Minister of State responsible for government communications, Felix Kwachio, for speaking to us there. And apologies, Adam Senan, who's an anti-graft campaigner who's been on with us all this while. And you've listened to government's position on this matter. It's not just about dropping the cases, it's also about going after persons who are, looting state's assets. Adam? We seem to have lost Adam Senanu there. But take a listen to some of the key members of Oral who are tonight speaking to us about the expectations going into the next phase of this operation.
And let me be very honest with you. My pain as a former Auditor General has always been that usually there are no consequences for misbehavior in this country. And the body language or the posturing of the president and his team, to me, is heartwarming. That if not anything at all, for the first time, we are going to see some seriousness on the ground. Seriousness not because we have by ourselves decided that somebody is guilty of anything. No, we have not accused anybody of anything, but we have provided information that we collected from the public. And if the next stage, which I find as a very critical stage, is carried out as promised by the president, then we will be saving this country good sums of money. But to me, it is not only that, to stop or nip on the bud in the bud that culture of impunity where somebody assumes public office and he thinks that because I'm a public officer, I can appropriate public properties to myself.
And of course, that's the former Auditor General, Daniel Yaodomelevu. And in the coming days, you will be hearing from some other key figures of that oral task force. I want to bring in Adam Senan, who is an anti-graft campaigner. Thank you, Adam, for staying on with us. I bet we have a better line to you right now. Give us a sense of, what you make of the justification by the government that it ought to prosecute these individuals and let go of the quote-unquote political cases that were pursued by the former Attorney General.
Well, I think that the aspect of going after and following up on the information provided to Oral, that was definitely what all of us expected. So there's no news there. That information needs to be handed over to the right quarters. The AG looks at it, screens it, validates what it needs to, moves it on to whichever agencies are seized with their respective mandate of that area of anti-graft. However, with the aspect of the cases being dropped, I think that the government needs to make haste slowly. Ideally, the thinking around which cases are not prosecutable, which cases have traveled a distance because really they're not amounting to much, all of that should have been brought out to the public domain for people to wrap their minds around it, so that by the time you get to saying we want to drop A or B, there is clarity. I think dropping the cases before coming later into the public domain to provide explanations is not the way to go. Again, I have read Manasseh's piece, and he's quite right that we need to be careful we don't, as it were, leave one clearing agent space to another clearing agent space. And so I'm a bit concerned. I think that providing the justifications and the thinking around some of these things, or just putting out the information so that right-minded citizens can also, engage with the content and draw their own conclusions in advance of any such actions, would have probably provided the best context within which to take any such actions.
And of course, it's a good time to take the perspective of the minority caucus in Parliament. Vincent Sefwa belongs to that caucus. Initially, they were raising concerns about the legality or otherwise of the team. And now it's confirmed that, the docket, if you want to call it as such, is not yet a docket, has been submitted to the president. All of these reports, according to Felix, has names of former government appointees, and perhaps it might include some members of your party. Your fears?
Well, let me say a very good evening to you and to your cherished viewers. I don't think there are any fears at all, especially when you look at the trend in terms of what I have seen to have been bandied around, especially right after the NDC won elections, the kind of presentations that have been made by the leader of Oral, which sent a certain signal that it is much ado about nothing. It is just suspicions, unnecessary allegations, the lack of understanding as to how some of these things work. And so, if anybody says that there should be fear in the spines of the New Patriotic Party, there's no fear. There's no fear because I have seen what the leader of the Oral was putting out as if these were corrupt practices and corrupt actions. I do not find those ones largely as anything that will put any fear in the spines of the New Patriotic Party. I can only also say that what has been sent to His Excellency the President, I would have wished that I see exactly what it is. However, we can only be patient and see what His Excellency the President will do, especially now that they are making us understand that they are expert in as it were assessing cases that are already in court, to also know the intent of the prosecution at the time, to see that the intent of the prosecution is not right, and the facts that are available at the AG office is also not right, and for that matter, they are filing nolle prosequi and withdrawal. I want to see how all these things will play out.
And indeed, we await all of that for the sake of time. Would now yield to Mary Ada, who is with the Ghana Integrity Initiative. And you've also been listening to the president assure the nation that there will no longer be a safe haven for corruption in this country. Are you rest assured, giving the comments by the president?
So good evening to you. I would want to say that we have heard that in the past. presidents have assured that they would do that. I remember in the recent past, Nanado saying similar things, and then in the end, the contrary was the case, which we all experienced. And so to see that this time around, people have collated information from citizens who are very willing to share these reports with them, and there is going to be investigation. Let's wait and see what happens, because as we would say, the sweetness of the pudding is in the eating. Let's see how it goes, because it's not just about collecting and investigating. We would also have an opportunity where people who have been cited would then have to go forward. And like it has been said before, in all of this, the evidence would be the game changer. And as the Honorable Felix Ofosu-Kwakye has indicated, most of the instances would have to come with some evidence. And if you look at the numbers, over 2,000 cases were reported, emails and others sent, and it is out of these 36 or so have been documented as the priority ones they want to pay attention to. Let's see how this pans out, but we are very happy as anti-corruption people that we are seeing some action taking place. And this action would only give us the assurance if we begin to see some very good collaborations happening between the Office of the Attorney General and the other institutions set up to also fight corruption. Therein, that's where we'll begin to see the results, and then we'll also see the people of Ghana will be assured.
Indeed. Right. Evidence is the name of the game. Top story with me, Blessed Sugan, brought to you by Telecel and Holy Insecticide Spray and Coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. Next is Newsnight.